Hi, this is Arthur Robinson Jr. I'm the creator of PowerfulInterviews.com. I am the creator of AudioSecretsTrainingEvent.com. I want to welcome each and every one of you to this powerful video. In this video, you're going to experience life-changing information that you will not find anywhere else. I have secured an incredible interview with a great friend of mine, multi-millionaire, international speaker, best-selling author. His name is Greg Link. Greg Link and his business partner, Stephen M.R. Covey, are the bestsellers of two phenomenal books, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and Smart Trust. They have sold 20 million copies in 38 different languages. And Greg Link and his business partner, Stephen M.R. Covey, they are the founders of Covey Leadership Center, and in addition to that, they took that company from a startup company to a $110 multi-million-dollar enterprise. So this interview, you're going to hear exclusively about Greg Link reveals how business owners and entrepreneurs can start to trust in the low-trust world. Greg Link also breaks down layman's terms about how him and Stephen M.R. Covey connected to powerful thought leaders in the World Economic Forum and how they got their best phenomenal ideas for their two best-selling books, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and Smart Trust. Greg Link also breaks down layman's terms about how you can start to trust your strategic alliances and your business partners to take your business to the next level, and much, much more. So remember, this is not bullshit information. The correct information will change your situation. But remember, you have to implement what you learn. Wealthy people take advice from other wealthy people. Poor people take advice from poor people. But like Abraham Lincoln said, you cannot help the poor by being one of them. So right about now, go get your pen and your pad, sit back and relax, and write down some notes. In this interview that I'm going to reveal to you with my great friend, international speaker, best-selling author, multi-millionaire, Greg Link, this interview is going to change your life. So check it out.
Today, I have a wonderful person on the call, and he's a great friend of mine. His name is Greg Link. And for those that don't know Greg, let me explain to each and every one of you about this incredible, powerful man. Greg Link is the co-founder of the former Covey Leadership Center, Covey Link, and the FranklinCovey Global Speed of Trust Practice, a fast-growing global company committed to influence to grow their careers and their organizations at the speed of trust, a recognized authority on leadership, trust, sales, marketing, and high performance. Greg is a sought-after advisor and powerful professional speaker. His authentic, engaging style endears him to audiences at all levels, from senior executives to the front lines. He is a powerful business expert who speaks, not a speaker who theorizes. He also is the creator and partner with Stephen Covey, and he is a powerful, great influencer, and he co-authored the book with Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, to become one of the best two sellers business books of the 20th century, according to the CEO magazine, selling more than 20 million copies in 38 different languages. I'm going to repeat that. It sold more than 20 million copies in 38 different languages. He created the marketing momentum that helped propel Covey Leadership Center from a startup company to a $110+ million enterprise with offices in 40 countries before merging with Franklin Quest to form FranklinCovey. And that is an awesome resume. And without further ado, I'd like like to welcome the one, the only, the powerful Greg Link to the call.
Arthur, you're good to me. That makes me tired to hear all that.
I'd like to thank you, Greg, for taking time out of your busy schedule to educate me and the listeners worldwide about your powerful book, Smart Trust. I gladly appreciate it.
Well, hey, you've got an important audience, and we really are excited. I'm excited to hopefully be able to shed some light on some of the things we can focus on to have better lives and better businesses around the world.
To anyone listening on this call, I highly recommend go and get your pen and your pad right now. Greg Link is going to break down layman's terms of how you can trust your strategic alliances, your business partners, and including your family members. To anyone listening on this call, remember you have to implement what you learn when it comes to trusting and when it comes to his powerful book that I recommend that you go and invest in right now, which is called Smart Trust. Now, Greg, what I'd like to know, and can you educate the listeners worldwide in regards to who is the powerful Greg Link? How long you been in your powerful industry, and what is your expertise? And can you break down layman's terms so the listeners fully understand what inspired you to write this powerful book with your business partner, Stephen Covey, in regards to Smart Trust?
Well, to keep it simple, I think, Arthur, I've worked with Stephen R. Covey and his oldest son and other members of the Covey Leadership Center and FranklinCovey Trust Practice for about 25 years, since 1986. And in that period of time, we've been privileged to interact with some of the most successful people around the world, the successful businesses around the world, and through all that time, we constantly were asking these leaders, what is it that makes you successful? Because as you know, Arthur, there are just a million things out there. There's all this stuff. And if you're trying to be successful, if you're just starting out, you're trying to sort out whether you don't know where to start. Well, we suggest, and we found through all that experience, that you need to start with trust. And let me tell you why. And this is why we decided to write this book after all the other success that we've had, is we found that as we talk to these successful people, the common denominator of their success, the thread that they all got back to, whether they used the word trust or not, they had developed in their career the ability to build trust, to be able to attract talented other people to help them, to be able to have trust from their coworkers, from their employees, as the case may be, and more important than anything, trust from their customers, so that their businesses could grow, so their reputation could grow, so they could have more influence. And that was the one thing that we realized after, it's way late in the game, just the last 4 or 5 years. We wrote The Speed of Trust, which is already the best-selling book ever published on trust. It's got over 1 million copies in print. And now this new book, Smart Trust. And the difference is the Speed of Trust, we focused a lot on how to build trust. Smart Trust gives you the specific actions you can take now to grow trust in your relationships and to get off on the right foot. Because it doesn't make any difference what your goals are or all the other things that you're trying to implement, whether you're trying to grow a business or whether you're trying to have personal development and learn some things. Trust is a career critical skill. People in this crazy economy with all this uncertainty, the people that are getting hired are the people that can be trusted. High trust people get the best jobs, they get the best projects, they get the biggest budgets, they're the first to be hired or promoted, and they're the last to be laid off. And so that's why we really felt that trust was a great starting point. And so as you, Arthur, you and I spoke a little bit earlier, what Stephen and I are trying to accomplish here is certainly to help you in whatever circumstance you may find yourself, to kind of cut through all the noise of all the different programs out there and start with trust and really get good at building trust, and that will change everything. We call it the one thing that changes everything.
How old are you now, Greg?
61. So I've been down the block a few times and around and back.
And where are you originally from?
Originally from Denver, Colorado, up in the Rocky Mountains.
Wow. Heard it's beautiful there.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Do you snow ski?
No, I don't.
All right, well, you guys got to come out. I'm sure there's some skiers in your audience here, Arthur, but snow skiing in the Rocky Mountains is an experience over which you will never get.
Wow. Well, I hear a lot of people that snow ski. They say it's an incredible experience.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is quite a unique experience. And, you know, it's interesting, speaking of experiences, one of the things we talk about when we talk to people who haven't skied before or even beginner skiers, when you're snow skiing, if you're not falling down, you're not learning, meaning that a lot of people learn how to ski and then they're really careful and they just, you know, don't push themselves at all and they aren't learning anything. And that's a very good metaphor for what it's like in our lives. We try to find these little safe comfort zones and we don't push ourselves. And that's why I like talking to you, Arthur, and your audience, because they are self-selected into those that are really trying to expand their experience and their influence and to get better. So we all got to get better every day.
Well, I agree with that powerful statement. And earlier, you mentioned about taking action. What is the first physical action step that people should engage in regards to trusting again?
Okay, yeah. As it relates to the Smart Trust book, what we identified as we got into this, we looked and talked to people that had high trust organizations, and we found that high trust organizations are 3 times more profitable, the research shows, than low trust organizations. So that got our attention. Then we tried to identify and talk to people that had these high trust organizations and found out what were some of the actions they took to grow that. We've outlined in the book 5 actions, and these are the 5 actions that we found are common to all the different people that have high trust organizations. And so the first one is they've got to believe in trust. You've really got to believe that trust is a better way to live and a better way to lead your organization or your life. And what I mean by that is you've got to really have a fundamental belief that you want to have a reputation that you can stand for. And that's the starting point of the 5 actions that we've outlined.
Now, you are a part of the great phenomenon in regards to the powerful book that you are business partners with, which is Stephen R. Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yep.
And there are 2 best-selling books along with Smart Trust. And y'all sold more than 20 million copies in 38 different languages. What do you think is the recipe for selling 20 million copies in 38 different languages?
Well, I think the easiest way to answer that is they're all great books. We spend a lot of time and a lot of research. These aren't just ideas we cook up off the top of our heads. So we're very judicious in the development of them, and they're developed and grown not out of our head, but through our practical experience as business leaders and speakers and consultants ourselves. So that's how it comes about. Now, as far as having to be a global phenomenon like that, I really think that the 7 Habits in 1989, which is when it came out, was a timing issue. That people were, for the first time, we came out of the 80s where we were all kind of caught up in materialism, and there was kind of a trend back to asking ourselves, what do we stand for? What's our reputation? People wanted to become more worthy of people's trust. And so that's what we tapped into then. And now, here we are, fast forward 20 years, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People is still in the top 100 books on Amazon of best-selling books of all books. And so it's a tremendous message, and I'm sure most of your audience has already read that. In this new book, Smart Trust, we've tried to take all the things we learned from that and identify ways that people can develop trust explicitly, to specifically start with themselves and identify, the things that they can do to grow influence in their business and in their life.
Now, I know that it was translated into 38 different languages. Was it translated into Japanese and Chinese, or?
Yeah, Japanese, Chinese, Korean. As a matter of fact, The 7 Habits is the best-selling American book, or actually not American, but just any foreign book that from outside of Japan that's been translated into Japanese. It's the #1 best-selling business book of all time. There's over 1 million copies of The 7 Habits in Japanese in Japan.
Wow.
And it was also, successful in Korea and all the other countries. We operate in all these different countries. Why? Because people all over the world want to grow and get better and learn and grow their businesses and lead in a way that inspires others.
That is absolutely incredible. Greg, you're a smart man.
Well, I don't know about that. I'm just like anybody else, Arthur. You kind of start out and people ask us, did you know what you guys were doing at the beginning? And no, we didn't. We're just like anybody else. We started out, we wanted to make a contribution. We wanted to make a difference. We started asking people what worked. We, continued to work with people and grow organizations and grow our own organization. And over time, we benefited from being curious, just like you are, Arthur, by interviewing and talking to successful people and asking them what was the #1 thing that made all the difference. And consistently, they kept telling us it was trust. If you have a situation where you're confused by all the noise, who do you seek out when you're confused? You go to a person you can trust. You buy from a company you can trust. You seek out a brand you can trust. You go to a store that you can trust. And so it really is a really important skill set that most people, it's interesting, Arthur, a lot of people have ignored it. Trust is kind of like air. You don't notice it until you don't have any. or when it gets polluted, there's a French proverb, fish discover water last. And the water's invisible to the fish until it gets polluted or low, and the same way with trust.
Now, these are 2 powerful books that I highly recommend the people that's listening on the call right now. You need to invest in the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and this new powerful book that Greg Link is a part of, along with Stephen Covey, Smart Trust. Now, tell me, explain to the listeners, Greg, what was your thought process in regards to writing this powerful book, Smart Trust? I mean, did you have help with book proposals or manuscripts? What did you do?
Well, basically the way we start out on a book is we first have an experience that tends to get our attention. In this case, we were at the World Economic Forum in Tianjin, China, on the very weekend in 2008 that the world economic crisis happened, that Lehman Brothers went bankrupt. And we were there with 90 different countries that were represented by 2,000 delegates to the World Economic Forum. These are the folks, if you're not familiar with the World Economic Forum, that do their meeting every year in Davos, Switzerland. And so they're kind of the thought leaders in the economics and business around the world. And at the end of their conference, which is a multiple-day conference, these 2,000 delegates from all sorts of different industries get together and they ask them the question, what is the biggest restraining force or the biggest challenge for growing the world economy for the next coming year? So this is 2008 September. They're talking about what's going to challenge the economy for the upcoming year 2009. And they had, Arthur, you've seen those keypad votings, when you're in a conference and you can push the button and they build a chart up on the front of who voted for what. Well, anyway, they did that, and the surprise to Stephen and I was that the financial crisis was not number 1. It was number 2. The number 1 restraining force was the crisis of trust and confidence. And when you think about it, the banks guaranteed liquidity. There was money available.